Joining me now is also Siddharth Zarabi. He's the group editor of Business Today, and also Aishwarya Paliwal. Thank you very much. But before that, just let's listen in to what Piyush Goyal said in the Parliament today.
हम अपने राष्ट्रीय हितों को सुरक्षित करने और आगे बढ़ाने के लिए सभी आवश्यक कदम उठाएंगे। मात्र एक दशक से भी कम समय में भारत फ्रैजाइल 5 अर्थव्यवस्थाओं में से निकलकर दुनिया की सबसे तेजी से बढ़ती प्रमुख अर्थव्यवस्था बन गया है। आज अंतर्राष्ट्रीय संस्थाएं और अर्थशास्त्री भारत को वैश्विक अर्थव्यवस्था में एक ब्राइट स्पॉट के रूप में देखते हैं।
Now I'll bring in Siddharth into this conversation. Siddharth, if I may say, this sounded more of a political answer where the opposition has been constantly saying that the government is weak in front of Trump. That's where they're sort of positioning themselves as that we are going to discuss and negotiate and not be worried about anything and any pressure. But what about the people who are part of the economy, the stakeholders, the traders? What do you how do you perceive, firstly, this answer that's been given by the minister in the parliament?
Well, it's clearly an expanded version of the first statement that came hours after President Donald Trump's tweet yesterday. Yesterday around 8:30 p.m., we had put out basically a statement which made it clear that India was not going to back down and would continue to protect the interests of key stakeholders, including farmers. What Piyush Goyal has said in the Lok Sabha, and he'll follow it up with a statement in English in the Rajya Sabha at 4:30 p.m., is an extension of that. And what does this statement therefore tell us? Number one, there is no bowing down to pressure from the United States, including some of the tweets and comments about the Indian economy, which are completely uncalled for. And even American commentators have sort of pointed that out, that calling India a dead economy is perhaps one of the most fallacious remarks that a US president, a sitting president, could have ever thought of making. And therefore, if you see the tonality and the content, and because your question was on the content, there isn't any new ground that has been broken in this statement. It is a recap of the calibrated, sort of very methodical process that India adopted towards this, with the objective of a bilateral trade agreement by October. And that is one quick point I want to quickly bring up, that if you read between the lines, nowhere is India, since President Trump made that announcement yesterday, saying that we are walking away from negotiations or that we are not hopeful that a bilateral trade agreement with the US can happen. Therefore, a window of opportunity for continuing trade negotiations is being left open. And remember, in all of what President Trump has said, he also said, well, we are in talks with India. So perhaps the doors being kept open on both sides, and that gives up hope that when officials from the United States who were earlier scheduled to visit India mid-August, if they come, will that be the day when a breakthrough happens? We don't know. But for now, India being calibrated and not slamming the door shut on the United States, and certainly not responding in the same kind of unparliamentary language that has been used over the last 12, 18 hours.
Right, so that Donald Trump is extremely shrewd that way. When he gets down on the negotiation table, he's known as a disruptor and a man who would play with all the tricks that he can muster up. And it seems like he's doing the same thing with the Russian oil and as well as India trade deal. But Aishwarya is there with me. Aishwarya, if we look at the political angle of it, this would come as an extremely convenient opportunity for the opposition. Yesterday, they were targeting Prime Minister Modi and the government for being weak in front of Trump on the issue of ceasefire, where trade was used according to Trump's claims. And immediately after that, we got this statement from Trump. This gave salvo to the opposition, and this politics clearly blew up.
Well, definitely. We are seeing politics blowing up since the day the ceasefire tweet was being done with Donald Trump. With regards to that, we did see how the opposition has been up in arms. They are not satisfied with the response that has been given both in Lok Sabha as well as in the upper house. Now, with regards to trade, we did see how it was Rahul Gandhi barely 48 hours ago who came out, in Parliament and said that now you wait and watch the kind of trade deal that we will have. But one thing that the experts are also, saying, and something that the government is also very keenly looking at, is the fact that we will have a team coming down from the US sometime in mid-August. So that's something that the government is now preparing for. The government is very, very clear. There are certain areas that cannot be touched. Those areas are core to the Indian economy and are very, very those are the areas which are core and are also the areas that the government will 100% protect. And that is something which came out in the statement which was made by the Commerce Minister. He said that agriculture is something that we will defend and we will protect. So that's something that India is not backing down on. Dairy products, that's also something that the government has been having conversations about, a lot of back and forth, because the government understands that you need to save the economy, you also need to save Indian farmers. That's the bottom line of what the government is trying to do at the moment.
And also, a big portion of our economy is powered by the farmers. Karishma, before I come to you, a quick question from Siddharth. Siddharth, the importance of the farmers in Indian economy and the reason why the government is being extremely careful in this negotiation. Can you tell us why is agriculture such a sticking point, especially since Trump kept on pointing towards the agricultural trade between Canada and US as well? So why is agriculture so important to Trump?
No country, and certainly not a country of the size of India in population terms, can afford its energy security, its food security to be sort of held hostage to any international supplier. Just as we are reluctant to do certain kinds of engagements with certain countries, as far as our food security and the needs of our population are concerned, you cannot make your local market depend on imports. That's clearly not going to happen. No other country has done it in the world, including the United States. Therefore, to expect that there will be whole-scale opening up of the agriculture sector of India to US imports will be detrimental to 400 million Indians directly and indirectly in times of famine or shortages to the rest of Indians. That is not going to happen. That said, I must say that as per what we learned, India had even offered to consider certain relaxations, some relaxations on certain food items, agriculture items where we do not have enough production or domestic production, and therefore that would not have hurt our domestic interests and would have only supplemented the availability of certain produce in India. The same applies to dairy. There are certain cultural sensitivities also which need to be kept in mind. But remember, I think in all of this, President Donald Trump is not going through the fine print. I think this is straightforward bullying and linking Russian oil purchases, which other country economies, including the EU, are doing with a trade deal, is perhaps not kosher for negotiation. And that's why I believe that for President Trump to have taken this decision, the consequences will also be on them in case there would be a hardening of stance from the Indian side. But let me point out once again, for the moment, India is not shutting the doors on continuing negotiations with the United States, and a very calibrated and measured response that we have just heard from the Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal.
Right, absolutely. Negotiations are important. We've seen Trump's stance change multiple times, whether it was on Iran, whether it was on Israel, whether it was on Russia. Russia was a friend and he would have finished the war in 2 days. But now allies of Russia are being targeted with the penalty. Now let's listen to what exactly did Donald Trump say.
Prime Minister Modi is a friend of mine, but they don't do very much business in terms of business with us. They sell a lot to us, but we don't buy from them. You know why? Because the tariff is so high. They have one of the highest tariffs in the world. Now they're willing to cut it very substantially, but we'll see what happens. We're talking to India now. We'll see what happens. It doesn't matter too much whether we have a deal or whether we charge them a certain tariff.
On the tariffs on India, are you still open to negotiate with India on the tariff front?
Well, we're talking to them now. We'll see what happens. Again, India was the highest, or just about the highest tariff nation in the world. One of the highest, 100 points, 150 points or percentages. So India was one of the highest in the world. They had won 175%. And higher than that. You know, there's another higher one is Canada. They've been charging our farmers 200%, 300%, 400% for years, and nobody did anything about it. But India is one of the highest, so we're going to see. We're negotiating with India right now.